Hi everyone, today I have my first coffee review. It's Andytown. They're here in the Sunset District of San Francisco. I've never tried their coffee until this week when I dug into this bag, this small 8-ounce bag for $10.50. Pretty pricey for some coffee, but it is a single origin from Ethiopia, and it is called the Ethiopia Yirgacheffe. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It is a pretty light roast, as you'll see here. They're very tiny beans with very noticeable cracks. And it doesn't have a very strong fragrance or aroma. Maybe because it's not heavily roasted. I know that beans that are darker roasts tend to have a very rich aroma. You walk into a Peet's Coffee and you're just blasted with coffee scent, for good or for bad. Actually, sometimes, side note, when I walk out of a Starbucks or a Peet's, I smell like coffee, and it's kind of gross actually, as much as I like coffee. But this doesn't have a very thick aroma. It's not overwhelming. And that just leads me into what I'm going to be reviewing, exactly what the 5 components are. According to Kenneth Davids, I saw him give a talk. He owns the site coffeereview.com. He's reviewed hundreds, if not thousands, of coffees over the years. He is from Berkeley, California, I believe, where I'm from, or at least that's where he lives. So I'm a bit of a fanboy, and he said that the 5 things you should be looking at when you're reviewing coffee are aroma, which I already talked about. So is the scent consistent with how the coffee tastes? So a good coffee will smell, or I should say it would taste the way that it smells, and vice versa. Flavor, so is the coffee sweet? Is it bitter? Is it somewhere in between? And then aftertaste, so what flavors, or I should say desirable flavors, are you picking up after the initial sip? So 10 seconds later, 20 seconds later, a minute later. Good aftertaste is a very key indicator of good coffee, according to Ken. There's body, which is the overall mouthfeel or thickness of the coffee. A more oily, sediment-filled coffee would have a thicker body, and then the opposite would be a thinner body. And a lot of that is contingent on the brew method you used. I used auto drip, so you're not going to be picking up as much of the body with the coffee using a method like that. But I've also tried this coffee with the mocha pot, Bialetti, and you do pick up way more oils. There's a heavier body as a result of that brew method. And finally, let's see, guys talked about aroma, body, flavor, aftertaste. And the 5th thing that Ken says that you should be looking for is acidity. So he says that the ideal level of acidity that you should be getting is something comparable to what you would get out of biting into a nice ripe orange. So I am by no means an expert at reviewing coffee. This is my first attempt, as I said, but I'm going to be just individually breaking down each one of those things, give it maybe a score on a scale from 1 to 5, 5 being good, 1 being bad, of each of these things. So, aroma. I would say that the way this coffee tastes, just after having a sip, it's pretty different from how it smells. Now, I said earlier, the beans by themselves, not very fragrant, very mild. After it's been brewed, I'd say you're smelling more, obviously, once the hot water comes into contact with the ground coffee. But after that first sip, I wasn't expecting the taste that I got based off of how it smelled. So I'd say the aroma is probably 2 or 3 with these guys. Maybe I'm totally off. Maybe my nose is clogged up and I don't have a very good, nose for this, but not much aroma. Acidity, in terms of acidity, I'd say pretty in the middle. I wasn't picking up any orange taste. With Ethiopian coffees, I tend to always pick up this blueberry taste, and it isn't really apparent here. So I'd say this is probably a 3 in the middle. It is pretty astringent, but not anything overbearing. So not too acidic, but you definitely taste some acidity in here. Right in the middle. Body, for me, depended on the brew method. I thought it had a really nice mouthfeel with the mocha pot, and was actually, I think it was more delicious than it was with the auto drip. I might need to address the grinds a little bit, but I thought the body was pretty good, so I'd be willing to say that it's about a 4. Flavor itself, also very good. Didn't like it as much with this auto drip, but it's just one trial, one brew, so I'd say overall the coffee flavor, not picking up any bitterness at all, so I'd give it a 4. And then the aftertaste I thought was better than the flavor itself. So probably 4.5 for me. I deduct a 0.5 point because I think it's a little dry. I'm craving a cup of water right now, and maybe I just had too much coffee today, but I don't think it's a perfect aftertaste, but it's certainly better than the initial flavor. And that doesn't happen a lot with the coffee I drink. So overall, I haven't added up those scores. I'll do it afterwards, and I'll leave it in the description below, the final score, and in the review on the website. But for now, that was Andytown Coffee Roasters, and this was the Ethiopia Yirgacheffe, single origin. Thanks for watching, and hopefully these reviews get a little bit better in the future.